Okay, we're ready.
All right, so we'll call to order the meeting of the Jasper Regional Planning Commission. We say we have the reading and approval of previous minutes, and you got about 4 different things. But I didn't receive any minutes. Did anybody else?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so I guess won't have that since they're not available. How's that for solid reasoning? Okay. Okay, Chad, take over, bud. New business.
Okay, sure. Stan might want to jump in on this too, but I talked to Chris Phillips as well. He had also made a request, but recall at the end of our last meeting, we had talked about some property on Colville Avenue. Mr. Phillips was wanting to put in a 30 by 30 building behind his house. It's currently zoned as industrial. And I talked to Earl Gary about it too, and he's a little bit hesitant in issuing a building permit for it just based on what your non-conforming use section says of the zoning ordinance. So he and Mr. Wilson have both made a request to have the property rezoned from industrial to R2 high density residential. And the R2 zoning district is directly across the street. So we would be pulling from that side of the street to do these two. There are a couple other properties next to this on the corner there. He did not want those to be rezoned in the past, so we're not pursuing that as part of this annexation. So it'd be just for those 2 parcels. And you should have that in your agenda packet. I need to put it up here on the screen. I will.
We have it, or I do.
So these are the 2 proposed parcels right here, and they both have a residence on each one of them, an existing residence.
And Chad, if you could, I'll give a little bit of history if you all would like to hear a little history on this property. There was actually a house on that property, and I don't know when it was zoned industrial. Doesn't really matter, I guess. But I built 2 houses on those 2 lots right there. And unbeknownst to me or the former building inspector, we didn't realize it was industrial would have had something changed back then. So actually to try to clean this up, what Earl had recommended doing is just go ahead and having that rezone residential. And then that way that would take care of the 2 houses that's on that property. And then he'd be able to issue a building permit for a garage for Chris Phillips that's wanting to build a garage there. So that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to clean up something that happened several years back.
Right. Okay.
Stan, can I ask a question, Mac?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Are you the property owner of those houses now?
I'm the property owner of the one where Val Dennis lives, but I do not own the one where Chris Phillips lives. That's the one that April lived in. I built that house for my daughter, April. And then I sold it. I had since then sold that. So Chris Phillips owns the one in the back where April used to live, if you remember that.
Yes, I do. But, so Valerie and Dennis aren't buying that house?
It's still my house.
Oh, so it's not under contract.
No, it's in my name. It's my house.
Okay, because I don't think we should be changing property of someone that isn't represented here.
No, that's my property. I own the property.
Is the property on the other side of Pottery Street, is that R1 or R2?
It's R2.
That's R2 also.
Yes,
I have some concerns also about the zoning. He's asking to have this zoned high density. And, I'd like someone to give me a good reason why single family homes should be placed in a high density.
The reason, did you want to address that, Chad, or you want me to?
Yeah, I was going to answer that. The reason, usually what we try to do is keep consistent zoning rather than spot zone pieces of property. The nearest adjacent residential zone is an R2 zone, and it butts right up to an industrial piece of property. So typically you don't have, a single family use right around industrial property. You usually try to mix, when you're going from a commercial or industrial zone down to a residential zone, you start gradually going down from a higher density to a lower density. So for these 2 parcels right here being directly across from an R2, I would recommend that it be rezoned to R2. Now that would mean in the future, it wouldn't fit on the front lot probably, but on the back lot, if they wanted to do a duplex, they could do that. But where it's located there, that's probably the best zone that we could do on that property to make it residential.
So we couldn't do anything. You're saying we can't do anything that isn't high density because I just don't see any good reason for that. I really don't. Those are single family homes and you're opening it up to become apartments if you make that high density.
That's always the possibility that it could go to more than a single family use, but it is based on the size of a lot. So for instance, this lot right here is a fairly small lot. It'd be hard to convert it into multifamily, but this back lot, you could possibly do that.
And the reason we're going with R2 rather than R1 is because that would be spot zoning. There's no R1 touching that. The only other zoning there would be, R2. So I don't see how we could even get an R1 there, which that would be.
Well, they were built when you built them. Didn't you think you were building R1?
No, we thought that was owned R2. Like all those lots across the street there that's got R2, all those single family homes that's across the street.
Yes.
All those are in R2. And they're all single family homes over there.
I don't feel real good about that zoning thing there being high density. I really don't, but I don't see the sense in it myself.
Well, all of it's R2 already. I mean, we're not going to go back and change it all to R1. So we might as well, instead of spot zoning, stay consistent and keep it R2.
Single family homes.
And you can have single family homes in an R2 district too. Anything that's permitted in R1 is also permitted in R2.
Yes. Hey, Chad,
Sir?
Debbie Coger's trying to get into the meeting. Is there like a waiting room or something?
I don't see her in the waiting room. It pops up on my screen if somebody is.
Okay, well, she's okay.
But I will watch for her though.
All right, we've had a discussion. Do we have a motion to move forward?
We need to resend Debbie the link. I had some trouble getting on until I
I did
found the
too.
correct link.
I'm not comfortable voting on this yet. There is, I'm wondering, aren't we setting a precedent here for any developer to come down the road and, build something and then want to change the zoning?
No, you're not.
I think we're setting a precedent.
I don't think you quite understand what we're trying to do here.
Yeah,
don't
I
think so
think I
either.
do.
The city of
That's right.
Jasper issued a building permit in an industrial zone, which apparently, according to our new building inspector, was illegal. So,
Well, I'd like to see the building permit and see what was applied for. Was it applied in to be a single family, or was it applied to be a high density? None of this seems right. It just seems like we'd just be opening a door for other developers to want us to change the zoning on places when they decided they wanted to use it for something else.
That happens all the time, Yvonne. That happens all the time, but you still have to be changing the zone to a zone that is adjacent. What you're asking the planning commission to do here is recommend this zone is an R1. That's not legal. That would be spot zoning. You can't spot zone. And the only two zones that we have around this property is R2 and industrial. So you can't make that R1 and be legal about it. It'll be spot zoning. It's illegal. So the options are either industrial or R2.
So I guess I could back up on just to give a better explanation of why the zoning districts exist the way they are. Most have been based on a plan for the town that at some time in the point in the town's history, they developed a proposed zoning throughout the town. That was where they anticipated future growth to happen of a certain type. And so it was zoned that way. A lot of times when we do zone property, we take into account what's already there and what we anticipate being there in the future. But absent doing a new comprehensive plan for the town, we try to keep any zoning recommendations and changes to a similar nature as to what's around them. So what's happened here on this property, like you said, anybody could come in and request a zoning, and that's what we have to evaluate and determine if it's in the best interest of the town. For this instance, you have two existing single-family homes that are in an industrial district. As it stands now, they're not able to use their property as they see fit because they want to put a personal garage on the property, and they've been denied a building permit to do so because that's an expansion of a non-conforming use. So otherwise, in other words, they have a home there that they can't build onto, they can't make bigger, and they can't add anything else on the property that furthers the use as a residence since it's industrial property. So to make this the best that we can do is rezone it to the nearest residential, which is R2 in this case. Now, as far as what Mark was saying about spot zoning, that's something we try not to do because there can be instances where a developer comes to you and says right in the middle of a single family neighborhood that the market is saying that we ought to have townhomes or apartments, and they want to rezone the property to do apartments. And so they would ask us to spot zone the property, and that's something we try to steer away from.
Well, the law is what the law is. But, I just, if homeowners thought they were buying into a residential and they bought into an industrial, that's another thing too.
And so that's sort of what we're trying to remedy. I mean, this is the best situation for them to continue using both properties as a residence. And as far as spot zoning goes, there's nothing in state law that talks about it. It's actually been determined by the courts what spot zoning is. There's several court cases that we go by.
As long as everything's on the up and up.
Any more discussion about it? We need to move for an ordinance. We need to move for a approval.
Somebody needs to make a recommendation that we change that from industrial to R2 and recommend it to the board of Mayor and Alderman for a public hearing. Is that correct?
Correct, yes, from I1 to R2. Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we change it from industrial to R2, both
Okay.
lots.
Okay, Kevin Merrill made the motion. Have a second?
I'm gonna second the motion because even though that I have one of the parcels there, I know that Chris Phillips, he's requested this to be done. So I'm gonna second that motion under the auspice that it was requested by one of the property owners.
There you go. Okay. All right. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, or I guess, Mark, we need to do a roll call.
We have to do roll call because this is being conducted by electronic media.
All right. So is that Linda? Is that you? I can't see for sure. There you are. Okay. All right. How about a roll call?
Okay, Matt Bumpus,
Yes.
Yvonne,
No.
Mayor Turner.
Yes.
I think that's it.
Kevin.
Kevin made the motion.
Kevin made the motion. Okay. So
Yeah.
we didn't have to vote. We need to vote. All right. All right. And then, all right. So now moving right along. So the motion carried. Okay. Moving right along, Chad, with the next one. Don't have my notes here in front of me. Annexation request discussion, Gary McNabb, 16.21 acres on exit 158.
You're muted, Chad.
Hey, Chad, can't hear you.
Sorry. Sorry about
All
that.
right.
Usually I don't mute my microphone during a meeting, but I did this time. Sorry about that. Last May, we had received a letter from Gary McNabb. He is one of the developers and investors of the Nickajack property that was formerly Rarity property. He had sent a letter and we had worked with him on possibly annexing the property they own close to the interstate. There's about 16.21 acres that's there now, and their plans are to have it developed commercially in the future. So I'm going to put up the plat map that was recorded for this. This is the actual plat that was recorded, and this is what their official request was for. So you have 15.02 acres on the east side and 1.19 acres on the west side of TV Access Road. And so they're requesting that this be taken into the town. So this is just a discussion tonight to get the ball rolling on this. The next step would actually be for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to consider a plan of services. That would actually initiate the process on annexation, and it would come back to the Planning Commission for you to do a study, which we prepare for you. And it's just an evaluation of each item in the plan of services, and we address whether or not this is a feasible annexation for the town. One reason this wasn't brought up last year was there was some concern about the sewer line that has to be extended to that proposed development. There are sewer lines in the development, but there's not a connection to the town. And I know from some of the town's board meetings I've been watching, I know they've had some concerns and talking with the engineer of whether or not it would accept the capacity of the sewer system. So that's something I'm not prepared to talk on, but I just know that's been an issue. So with this annexation, something to keep in mind is, and we ran into this with the Speedway as well, Marion County would be held harmless of any taxes on the property for a period of 15 years if a commercial business were to open prior to annexation or within 3 months following annexation. So the longer we delay on considering this, if something were to actually come to this property, the town of Jasper could be losing out on a good portion of those sales taxes for the next few years. Now, as far as any cost to the town of Jasper, any sewer line extension, just like to the Speedway, that would be done at the developer's expense, connecting onto that. So as long as the sewer system could support it, the town of Jasper won't be incurring the cost on the sewer system. It would actually be the developer. As for the remainder of the property, that was never originally considered to be part of the annexation. Marion County has been working with the developer on a TIF, which is a tax increment financing program that would defer some taxes in exchange for the cost of the sewer line being put in and connecting to the town system. So right now, this is the only thing we have before us. Of course, the way the law changed in Tennessee a few years ago, previously when we did the Loves annexation, we were able to annex all those properties by ordinance. In other words, we did it on the town's own initiative. State law changed a few years ago that now says you either have to hold a referendum of all the property owners involved, or you have to have a letter requesting the annexation. So in this case, we have a letter from the developer. So that's really about all I have to say on this right now. So like I said, I just wanted to open this up for the discussion and get the ball rolling. And Mayor Turner, if you wanted to jump in and if you have any thoughts or concerns or anything you'd like to talk about on this.
I do. I mean, like I say, I don't want to see a thing like you said, Speedway. We don't want to see a repeat of Speedway. I mean, if we can get the ball rolling on this, I think it'd be good.
Just to give the board, the planning commission, a little bit of background, there's been several meetings on this particular piece of property out there with Mr. McNabb, and he's moved on to other things, I think, down further south in Georgia. And I can't recall there's a new fellow that's coming in, Steve, can't recall his last name. Anyway, this process has been going on for a long time. And basically, Mr. McNabb sent this letter kind of at the town's request, because with the change in the law, we couldn't reach out and annex them. And really the town wasn't jumping up and down to do that. But if we're going to provide sewer service out there, we wanted to get some of the benefit out of it. And so the only way to do that without having to either enter a joint agreement like we did with the county on Speedway, where we, lost half the revenue off of that for 15 years, we asked Mr. McNabb to send a letter to the town requesting to be annexed so that we could avoid that situation. And the town, there's 160, I think, home sites in the first phase A, whatever they're calling it now. And so there's capacity to handle that. The question here lately has been, well, if we develop these other phases, we're gonna need to hook onto that. So the board is either last meeting or meeting before last. That was the study that the alderman voted for Gary Cosby to perform. So to see, exactly what the capacity of our sewer system was, and if, additional homes, if we could add, more homes from those phases and be able to carry that load. So, that's in progress. It's always been that, Speedway, or not Speedway, but Rarity wanted to connect underneath the interstate. They'll be the ones that have to bear the cost of the bore, and all those expenses. So, that's not going to be an expense to the town. But since grant funding was used to put that sewer line in to Love's and subsequently to Speedway, we're not really in a position to deny Rarity if they come and say we want to tap onto that system. If we have capacity, we probably can't stop them. We would have to do that. So that is how we got to the point where we got the letter requesting to be annexed, because we wanted to do that and get them annexed in before they built, the commercial property. They developed it so that we would not have to share that tax, or either lose that tax revenue to the county or share it with the county like we do with Speedway. So that's kind of the background on it, how we got to this point and how we got the letter requesting annexation, into the town.
Chad, I've got a question. I've noticed that the date on this letter is dated May the 13th of 2020.
Yeah.
Is that still active? Is this something that Gary McNabb still is interested in us doing this? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is. He sent Harvey over. Harvey came over and he can give us a new letter. He said they are very much still interested. They want to move forward with this. Kind of brought
Part of the holdup on that, Stan, has been trying to figure out whether the sewer had capacity to carry those extra phases. It's always been there for phase one, but the investor here, their concern is, okay, if we get phase one in 160 homes, I think the number that I've heard tossed around is in the neighborhood of 600 to 700 homes out there. So, it was designed to carry phase one, without problem. Their concern has been, okay, what about phase 2, 3, 4, however many phases to get, all of the property developed. So that's what's been the delay, was trying to get the engineering figured out for the sewer system. Not that they were getting cold feet or anything like that. They have done everything they said they, would do, and have really been working diligently to try to get this, moving forward and get it done.
It appears he's got the financial backing for this, and with Mr. Cameron telling me that they're trying something different with this marina thing they're wanting to do, and then the RV lots they're wanting to put in. So it sounds like not as many houses, but Gary Cosby's we're trying to get something together this week where we can meet, because he's through with the study, and he's got some ideas of how we can meet that flow.
Well, somebody correct me if I'm mistaken here, but I was under the impression that when we approved those 163 or 136, whatever they were, there's a pumping station those sewers are pumped right now into that holding station, and they're pumping in halls.
That's what's happening right now, Stan. The sewer that's for the existing homes there now gets pumped up to the tank. It's up there not too far from where your old cabinet shop used to be. And so, and then they haul it away from there. So what they're talking about, I think, the best of my memory, so that's a dangerous thing, but I think there was going to be a connection, at the developer's expense from that point to the bore underneath the interstate to connect on to the high pressure line there at Speedway.
Well, it's
either that or they're going to come up through, the other phases. It may not make that much sense to do that. Of course, I'm not sure that there's any real plan to develop, that stretch of property that is between TVA access road and Shell Mound, the old Shell Mound road, that's a pretty narrow strip. I don't know that they have plans to, build anything or develop that. So that may be the way they're going to put the, sewer infrastructure and other utilities in.
Well, Mark, but at the time that this was approved, that sewer line was not even, Love's wasn't even on the radar.
That's true.
Well,
At one point in time, the plan was to take the sewer line through the bottoms down to our sewer plant, which was going to be a, $5, $6, $7 million project. And, then the Loves came along, and of course, by the time Loves came along, Rarity had already bankrupted. And so the new, at some point in time, I don't know if it was, I don't remember exactly, because a lot of this happened when Zach Kelly was still attorney, and then I kind of inherited and, been in on the meetings that have happened since then. And this was actually taking place under Mayor Simpson. And so it's been going on for a while, but Gary McNabb and his group, and just so you'll know, the primary investor in this is the guy who, has the check into cash, or, that chain of, that's how he made his money. He's an attorney up in Cookville, and the money is not a concern with this group here.
So my only concern is I know that when that sewer line was brought out to Love's, there's only a 6-inch line.
True.
Yes.
And I don't know what, of course, I'm interested, Mayor Turner, I'm interested in finding out what Gary Cosby has to say about, as far as, whether or not even that's going to accept.
It's a
136 homes, much less 700 homes. That's something that really would spark an interest to me, to find out if it needs to go like the original plan, and that was out toward Shell Mound, out towards Al Pilgrim Road, or go through the bottoms or something out toward the sewer plant that way. And if it did, that was going to take in a whole lot of other properties over off of, I guess that's old Shell Mound Road, the one where you turn it
down through the fire training center,
right, exactly.
The old landfill, down through that area is, I think, the route they were looking at primarily.
You may be right.
That's a very expensive proposition, though, because that was going to be a gravity flow system. And we had, we're talking about the high pressure system now.
Maybe.
There's Debbie.
I'm here.
The thing with that is you're right, Stan, that if they do this RV park they're talking about, we're talking about 284 spots for RVs to park. There's that sewer to contend with, and the other things at the marina there. But from talking to Gary, what he's talking about is, in order to make the Love's pipe work, it's got to be a step system where it's a series of tanks where it only releases so much liquid per minute. I think he said there's a flow rate of between 200 and 300 gallons per minute, and they'd have to have a series of tanks to slow the flow down to get us to that where it would be able to.
He mentions a series of holding tanks. He wasn't sure exactly how much capacity they would need, and that was the part of the purpose for the study that the board commissioned him to do. So You're right, Stan. You can't just hook 700 homes up to it. There'll have to be a series of storage areas that, like Mayor Turner says, to make sure that we don't exceed the flow rate that 6-inch pipe pressure line is capable of carrying.
Yeah, because it's 6-inch all the way back to the Squatchy River, and then it rolls over to an 8. So you're exactly right. It's between 200 and 300 gallons per minute.
Mm-hmm. That's consistent with what's been discussed in all the meetings that I've attended.
I'm not an engineer, but it seems to me like that this property that they're wanting to annex into the city, I'm like I said, I'm not an engineer, but I believe that the sewer system we currently have that leaves Love's and comes back in with that 6-inch line I was discussing, it seemed like whatever they put on that property should be able to handle that. I'm just concerned about the other 700 homes. I believe that, because what we're looking at now is whether we want to annex just that one portion.
Well, let me just say this, the only portion that the town up to this point expressed interest in is the commercial portion. We don't want to take the residential loan and have to, service 700 homes and sewer system and police, fire, garbage service, all that. That's not really ever been on the drawing table. I guess the plan here was to take the commercial part to, help pay for the sewer system. And just so the commission will know, as far as, maintenance and upkeep of the sewer system, the developer has agreed, to pay that cost up until the point where the revenue generated off the sewer system, is able to pay for itself. And that number that was mentioned was, I believe, somewhere around $20,000 to $25,000 a year. So, but the town was really only interested in the commercial portion for the sales tax revenue. And there was never really any interest expressed in annexing, the homes, at least up to this point. That's not to say that, the homeowners may get together out there and decide, hey, we don't want to wait, on the county deputy to come from Mont Eagle when, the town of Jasper is 200 yards away. They may eventually come and ask to be annexed into the city, but the city was not driving that train saying, hey, you need to request the annexation so that we can, get the tax revenue.
Mark, you're right. I was talking to Chad this morning about that. I've already had 2 of the new board members already start asking those kind of questions. So I had some questions for Chad earlier today that's kind of a discussion now that's going on.
Right.
Well, I know there was just, the request was to have a discussion, and if, for what little it's worth, in my 2 cents worth, is I'm all for annexing that 16.21 acres myself. I'm all for doing that. I mean, it's, I think it would be an asset to the city. I think it would be an asset to the community, to the town. So that's just my opinion. I'm all for it myself. So
I'll have to say that the developers, they've been moving, at a good pace on this. They went in there, they've cleaned up that property. They've, they're ready. They're setting on go. Like I said, the biggest holdup that we faced was, what about the sewer capacity? So it sounds like maybe Gary and, is going to have some answers for us here pretty soon on that, which, they're ready to, I believe the developers are ready to go as soon as we say we can, service their needs with the sewer system.
So I wanted to talk just briefly while we're on this topic about a proposed timeline. I'm going to put some notes up on the screen while I go over this with you. Ultimately, before any development takes place or begins commercial operation of the property, we'd be looking at the end of July before that could happen. So what I've proposed here in a timeline would be, our discussion is starting tonight on the 4th. What I can do for the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting next week is go ahead and prepare a draft plan of services, which actually initiates the process, and it authorizes the Planning Commission to start a study of that plan of service. So that would give us until the February 1st Planning Commission meeting to prepare that and put all that information together. If you're satisfied with the plan of services report that I put together for you, we'd be voting on that at the February 1st meeting, and then it would be going back to the Board of Mayor and Alderman on the 8th. Now, there is another step in there that would need to be done, and I was suggesting it being done after the 11th as well. There's a 30-day period between the time the notice is given and when the Board of Mayor and Alderman can actually vote on it, that you have to send notification to the county mayor, 911 office, and the superintendent of schools, notifying them of a pending annexation. So I would suggest doing that there early this month to go ahead and get that out. So that when it comes up for the March meeting, they'll be able to actually hold their public hearings on that, give us more than enough time. So the Board of Mayor and Alderman would actually be looking at the plan of services on February the 8th and the report from the Planning Commission. Just to give us that 30-day window. I didn't have them actually looking at voting on it or holding a first reading until March. And so there's only one reading required for the resolution on the plan of services and the resolution for annexation. But for the zoning map amendment, it would require 2 readings and a public hearing. Now, once the both the plan of service and annexation ordinance is passed, it doesn't become effective for 30 days. We usually have just a waiting period on that. So like I said, you're talking about 30 days after the 12th, and then you're looking at 3 more months that you don't want any commercial operation to actually begin collecting sales tax, or that way you have to remit a lot of that sales tax back to the county for the next 15 years. So this is sort of the proposed timeline, doing it about as quick as we can. So are there any questions on this proposal?
Tad, can you send me a copy of that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Of course, this was just for discussion. Of course, we got a long way to go before we do anything at this level. Okay. Chad, back to you. We got annual election of the planning commission officers. Is that next?
Yes, sir. So your bylaws call for election to be held in January of each year. It'd be electing your chairman, vice chairman, and secretary of the planning commission.
Okay. All right. I would graciously step away and let someone else take this August.
I would,
I'd like to make a motion. I make a
go ahead.
motion that we place Jason Turner as our chairman.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Put him on the hot seat again.
Mayor, is that something you would want to do with all your other duties? It's not like you don't have a full plate right now.
I have a full plate right now. Yes.
So are you respectfully declining?
I would like to respectfully decline on that.
I'd like to make a motion, if I might, to continue to have Mac Bumpus as our chairman. I think he's done a great job, and I do appreciate you doing, what you've been doing over the years. And
Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to respectfully decline too. I'm going to nominate you. I'm going to nominate you, Stan. You do a great job, really. You're very learned on this stuff.
well,
So I nominate Stan.
And I second that.
Okay.
Okay, now say that again.
Nominate Stan for the chairman.
And I second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other nominations?
Mac and Debbie,
Mhm.
chairman.
Stan, will you, where is Stan? I don't see Stan on here anymore. Stan, you here?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, all right. You'll accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Good. Okay.
Reservations, but yes, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll do a roll call now.
Okay, let's see. Kevin.
Yes.
Okay, there's Mac.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Who else have I got? Kevin. Yvonne.
Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Got Debbie. Debbie's on now, Linda.
Debbie seconded it. Did
Okay.
you second it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And then there's Stan.
Reluctantly, yes.
All right. Congratulations, Stan.
He'll do a fine job. He'll
Oh,
do a
yeah.
fine job.
Sure will.
Okay, vice chairman.
I nominate Kevin.
Welcome to the hot seat, Kevin.
Oh, thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Nomination.
Okay, Debbie.
Yes.
Wait a minute. We need to ask Kevin, will he accept?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I put that too.
Okay.
Good.
Sorry for the interruption. Just didn't want to go through the vote and then him say, well, I respectfully decline.
It's going around
Right.
You asked me? Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, and there's Jason,
Yes.
Stan,
Yes.
let's see. Yep, that's it. Everybody. Then secretary.
Nominate Debbie.
I'll second it.
Debbie, will you accept?
I will.
Debbie staying in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Who
There
was
you
the
go.
second? Who was the second? Mac.
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay. Stan,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Who else have I got? Kevin. Got Kevin, Jason.
That's it, yes.
Okay, yep, got everybody.
Okay. Good deal. Chad, that covers all that, I think.
I know where I made a mistake. We
Yeah.
should put Wayne Westmoreland in there as chairman while he wasn't here. He would-
Right. Right.
Waiting on somebody to make that nomination.
Forgot about
Lose,
Wayne.
you lose, Stan.
Hey,
All
Mac, thank you, sir. Thank you for doing that service.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. It's been about 30 years or so. But no, I'm not kidding. Okay.
Congratulations,
That's
Stan
true.
and Kevin and Debbie, of course.
I've been
Right.
practicing law 25 years, and Mac was the chairman before I started practicing law. So
Oh, boy. Well, thank you for that reminder.
30 years. I'm just screwing with you.
Oh, me. Well, on that, we'll close if it's okay with everybody. Any old business, first of all?
I just have one thing to mention to you, and this is mostly for our planning commissioners that are not elected officials. You'll recall in past years, there's an ethics statement that's due. It's a disclosure of interest
Yeah.
form that you send the Tennessee Ethics Commission. Those are due by January the 31st, and you can either print it out and mail it in, or you can create, if you've done it in the past, or create you a new one, an online account and fill it out online. But you need to get that done by January the 31st.
Word to the wise, if you'll fill it out online, it keeps your answers. Then you just got to update it just update it that it hasn't changed or whatever changes. And
It takes 2 seconds to do it.
It is,
It's-
that is the only way to do it, is just do it online and
Yeah.
keep it like that every year.
As long as you can remember your password.
Exactly.
Quick save the password, Chad.
Yeah.
And
that's
don't get
what
rid
your
of the
notes,
computer.
that's what the notes in your phone are for.
Right.
Yep. All right. Any other business? Any other?
I'll make a motion.
All right. There you go. Somebody made a motion to adjourn. I'm sure we
Second
have a
it.
second.
I
All right.
second.
Okay, well, thank you, folks. That's it. See ya.
Everybody stay safe.
Alrighty.
Have a good
All righty.
evening.
Good night.
Bye-bye. It's over, Ralph. Well, now I can't get rid of it.